It's official pick time, baby. The card that we have been looking forward to, probably the card I've been most looking forward to since the start of 2025. We got Volkanovski versus Lopes. We got Patty versus Chandler, Silva versus Bryce Mitchell, and a bunch of other great fights. I'm going to go through every single fight on the card. I gave you my early picks on Sunday. I did a lot more tape study, and now I'm going to give you my official picks. These are gun to your head. The cartel is waterboarding you, saying, give me the winner for every single fight on UFC 314. That's exactly what we're going to do. As always, these are not bets. Picks and bets are very different. Just because I pick a fighter to win doesn't mean I'm going to bet on them. But everyone likes to know, if you're going to pick a fight, who do you think is going to win? That's what this video is for. As always, we scroll all the way to the bottom. We start with the first fight of the night. There's going to be chapters on this video, so if you want my opinion on a certain fight, you can click through that if you don't care about these prelims, but I got to give them for every single fight on the card. We start with Nora Cornolle taking on Haley Cowan. I think this is a pretty solid fight for Nora Cornolle. My only worry would be the wrestling from Haley Cowan, and I think it could go to a competitive decision, but I think Nora Cornolle will get the better of Haley Cowan on the feet. I watch Haley Cowan striking. It's fairly fluid. There's not a lot of pop behind anything. There's not a lot of setups. It's a very low-level women's MMA type of striking, but she is a fairly good athlete. She is fairly strong in the clinch, and I think there's going to be a lot of moments in the clinch in this fight where Haley Cowan is probably looking to close the distance a little bit, where Nora can get off with her kicks and her straight rights down the pipe. And I think Nora will entertain the clinch because she's fairly good in the clinch as well. I mean, she's a Muay Thai champion, and in the clinch, she has some pretty nasty knees, and I think that'll damage Haley Cowan. I think Cowan maybe get a couple takedowns here, but Nora, her ground game is improving, and she has shown if she does get taken down, she can scramble out of there. She can get back into the clinch and get back to her work. She could even offensively wrestle against Haley Cowan as well. I mean, she's not a terrible offensive wrestler. It's more so the jiu-jitsu aspect. Like, her jiu-jitsu is just, it's not that great. And I don't know that Haley Cowan's jiu-jitsu is great at either, to where she's going to make Nora pay for it. So I think Nora Cornolle gets this one done. I could maybe see a TKO, but I think Cowan is tough enough. I think it's probably going to be a decision where Nora Cornolle gets her hand raised. That's going to be the official pick. Let's move on. Gore taking on Marco Tulio. I like the possible aspect of Gore making this competitive, but overall, I think Tulio will just be a little bit of a step ahead, and he'll get his hand raised, whether he gets a finish early on, or it could make it to a decision where Tulio, I think, probably has the better cardio, probably has the more skills to win the minutes in this one. I mean, he's not your typical shoot-the-box guy where he's just in there throwing caution to the wind. He is dynamic, and he does have some power to his shots, but he's not a guy that's just going to go in there and just get hit a bunch and rely on his chin and rely on you wearing out. He'll stay to the outside. He'll use his kicks from range. His hands are solid from range as well. And his ground game is pretty solid as well. I think if Gore does start to tire out in the second and the third rounds, Tulio could maybe lean on that wrestling and ultimately win a decision. But I think Tulio could also get Gore out of there early on. Now, I said it in the last Gore fight, but Tulio's got to watch out for that guillotine. If he's going to look to wrestle early on in this fight especially, you got to watch out for that guillotine from Gore. Antonio Tricoli was not ready for that, a jiu-jitsu black belt. Come on, bro. Tulio should be able to get this one done. I'll take Tulio for the official pick. I could see him hurting Gore early or winning a decision. Let's move on. Sumudaerji Mitch Raposo. I watched a lot of film on this one because there's some concerns for me on the Sumudaerji side, just as far as his durability, as far as his defensive grappling. But ultimately, I just don't know that Mitch Raposo is going to make him pay for it. Like, I watched Mitch Raposo on film, and I'm kind of waiting for him to do a little bit more. Like, even on the regional scene, he's not going out there just starching guys. Like, he's got some knockouts on the regional scene, which is cool, but it's very low-level competition, and he's not even going out there and, like, grapple fucking him. Like, if you're going to win against Sumudaerji, you got to come with a lot of pressure, and you got to be able to offensively wrestle, offensively grapple, and put him in bad spots where he doesn't want to be. And Sumudaerji is very good at keeping his range, fighting off the back foot, hitting you with leg kicks when you enter, and hitting you with straight lefts down the pipe. He's a southpaw, rangy guy that likes to keep his range in a big cage. I think he's probably going to be able to keep his range. And what I watched with Mitch Raposo, especially in his UFC debut, I get it was short notice, but the guy was way outside of range of hitting Andre Lima. He's just not able to do anything. The range that he keeps is not possible to do any type of damage to his opponent. And if he comes into this fight with his normal range, he's going to be severely outpointed from the outside, where Sumudaerji is very good. So I think Sumudaerji gets this one done. I could see, a counter left down the middle if Mitch Raposo starts to get a little bit frustrated, starts to start rushing in. Sumudaerji's counters are really good. Or I could see it just a decision for Sumudaerji. So I'm going to go with Sumudaerji for the official pick. I think he's just more well-versed in the distance management of the striking, and I just don't really trust Mitch Raposo's grappling game unless he makes some major improvements and he comes out here and uses that. I just don't know that he gets his hand raised in this one. So Sumudaerji is the official pick. Let's move on. Cedric Dumas taking on Michal Oleksiejczuk. I think Oleksiejczuk wins this one. I'm going to take him for the official pick, but there's always some caution with Oleksiejczuk. I mean, the guy will go out there just to throw. I don't even know if he cares if he gets his hand raised. He just kind of wants to go out there and put on some violence. And I don't know that Dumas is really down for that. His wins in the UFC are bad. Overall, his skill set, I think, is improving. But is it enough to beat Oleksiejczuk? Oleksiejczuk has fought some really, really good guys. Like, taking a lot of L's in the UFC. But his level of competition is just supreme to Dumas. And I think that shows here. I think Oleksiejczuk walks him down early, lands some big shots, gets him uncomfortable. If Dumas wants to win this fight, I would say to wrestle early. Like, wrestle early, get Oleksiejczuk on his back so he's not dangerous off his back, and kind of take a path of a boring fight. I think if he wants to win, he's got to make it boring, because in a firefight, Oleksiejczuk's going to beat him down. And I think Oleksiejczuk probably wins in that firefight, and I think the firefight is probably what we're going to get. So I think Oleksiejczuk gets it done. I'll take him for the official pick, but like I said, it could go wrong if Dumas decides to wrestle. Not that he's some great wrestler, but he's a big guy who has some decent double legs, some decent top control, and Oleksiejczuk's ground game has just never been good. But I'll take Oleksiejczuk to win this one for the official pick. Let's move on to the prelims. Darren Elkins taking on Julian Erosa. Very, very interesting one. I think this is probably my favorite fight on the prelims, just because I don't know what the hell is going to happen. And I think ultimately Erosa should win this fight. If you're losing to Darren Elkins in 2025, that usually means you're not a caliber. I don't want to say you're not a UFC caliber guy, but I just want to say, like, you're not coming into the fight with a solid game plan. You probably don't got much dog in you. But I think Julian Erosa has UFC skills. I think he has solid game plans. Ultimately, it just comes down to his chin. And I don't know that Darren Elkins is going to expose his chin. So over the course of 15 minutes, I expect Julian Erosa to probably do the more damage. And I also know that Darren Elkins been knocked out a couple times, and I think Julian Erosa has some underrated hands, could maybe put out Darren Elkins. Now, if Darren Elkins can get the takedowns and avoid the submission attempts from Julian Erosa, who has a nasty guillotine, then maybe he can grind on him, maybe he can wear him out, maybe he could take over into the late, in the second, into the third round. But Julian Erosa has always shown good cardio in his fights that do go to 15 minutes. But he does tend to fight to the level of his competition a little bit. I think that's where my worry comes in. But either way, I'm going to take Julian Erosa for the official pick. I think he gets it done. I don't think he's going to get chinned by Darren Elkins. I think he's got the better striking. He should be able to piece him up at range. But Darren is a little bit tricky. Darren is just a tricky customer, especially in the striking realm. So maybe he could catch Julian Erosa. I'm not gonna put my life on the line of a Darren Elkins KO. So I'll take Julian Erosa for the official pick to get it done. But at the line, I would not recommend. Let's move on. Jim Miller taking on Chase Hooper. This is another one where at the line, I would not recommend. Chase Hooper at minus 800. But I do think he probably wins. Jim Miller, not the best cardio, at 40-some years of age. I think if he is going to get it done, it's probably going to be in round 1 or early round 2. Chase Hooper, solid skill set overall, pretty big guy for the weight class, even though he moved up from 145. I think it's going to be very tough for Jim Miller to create some space to where he can land a shot. Like Chase Hooper's kind of gotten this fight style of either he's in or he's out. Like he's either outside kicking you, or when he wants to go in, he's going to shoot a takedown. And he's got to watch his neck for the guillotine from Jim Miller, but Chase Hooper is very good on the ground. Like one of the best jiu-jitsu guys, I think, just pure jiu-jitsu, because he's so hard to deal with. He's so long, and if he just gets a hold of you, he's going to roll and scramble. He's going to win a lot of these scrambles. I remember watching him against Jordan Levitt, and the scrambles they had, it was like Levitt had him in a bad spot, but then Chase Hooper would put him in a worse spot. And I think if Jim Miller engages in that type of grappling, Chase Hooper will probably put him in a really bad spot to possibly finish him on the ground. But either way, I think Chase Hooper will win the positions on the ground. And I think from the outside, he can kick away. He can use his long arms to keep Jim Miller at range to where he can't get hit with, the big overhand lefts that Jim Miller is going to throw at him. And I think Chase Hooper is fairly durable. I know he's been knocked out before, but he's not going to just go out with one punch. I think it's going to have to be multiple knockdowns and multiple beatdowns for Jim Miller to get a KO here. So I'll take Chase Hooper for the official pick. I think he gets it done. I could see a submission either early on, or he probably just rides out a decision. So Chase Hooper's the official pick. Let's move on. Xionan versus Jandiroba. I believe on my early picks video, I picked Xionan because I liked her as an underdog, but I told you I was going to go back and watch more film on it, and I did, and I didn't really like what I saw, okay? Because I liked Verna Jandiroba's grappling, but I needed to see how she's getting these takedowns, and there are a multitude of ways. She will pick a single, she will shoot a double, and ultimately, all she really needs to do is get you backed up against the cage, get a hold of you, and she's going to find a way to get it to the ground. She will roll for a leg. She'll peel your leg back, trip you. There's a lot of ways that Verna gets it to the ground. She's very crafty with the way she can get the fight to the ground. Her outside striking, I think, is pretty abysmal, but with the takedown threat, sometimes it's a little bit effective. Like, she's got a decent jab, she's got a decent front kick, but she's not going to go out there and, like, box with Xionan. If she does that, she's screwed. But she knows her strengths, and I think that's the exact weakness that Xionan has. So, Xionan, if she gets taken down by Verna, I would be very, very concerned for her, because I think Verna could probably get to the back and submit her. Zhang Wei Li got to the back once, pretty much choked her out, and the bell rang, but she was choked out. That fight should have been stopped, and I think if Verna gets into that spot, she is going to finish Xionan on the ground. But, if Verna can't keep up with this fight for 15 minutes and she starts to slow down, she gets into that second and the third round, and she's struggling to get those takedowns, then Xionan is probably going to look pretty good. She's probably going to be able to piece her up. But Verna just keeps coming forward, keeps finding ways to get to the ground, winning the scrambles, and she finds her positions. That's just what she does, and I think she gets it done here. I'll take Verna Jandiroba to get it done. She'll be the official pick this week. Moving on to the feature prelim. I think this is the toughest fight to call on the entire card, because I like both guys. I think it's a very binary fight in the fact that Dan Ige is either going to win by KO or Sean Woodson's going to win a decision. But I don't know that Sean Woodson has the skills to deal with a boxer who is as deadly as Dan Ige. I mean, Dan Ige can knock down a lot of guys. He's knocked out a lot of guys. He's very durable, never been KO'd, never been submitted. So he's going to be there for 15 minutes. So Sean Woodson's got to be on his P's and Q's for all 15 minutes. Now, Sean Woodson's takedown defense has looked really good as of late. And I don't know that Dan Ige, even though he has some wrestling in his bag, he has a solid jiu-jitsu game, is going to go to it. Like, he just never goes to the wrestling offensively. It's not something he does. But if he can get on top, find a way, like if he can catch a kick, if Sean Woodson slips, then Dan Ige on top is not bad. So this is a very tough fight for me to call. I think it's a big step up for Sean Woodson, but I look at the stylistics of the fight, and I think Sean Woodson can win a decision here. And I'm going to take Sean Woodson for the official pick, but like I said, this is probably my least confident pick on the entire card. I think it's a toss-up either way, but I'm going to lead with Sean Woodson's boxing, his movement from the outside, to win minutes during this fight and ultimately win the fight by decision, I'll take Sean Woodson for the official pick. Let's move on to the main card. We got Nikita Krylov taking on Dominic Reyes. I think this one's going to be a barn burner. I already have a bet on this fight. If you want that, there's a link down in the description below. Jump in the Homo Fight Picks Premium membership. But who am I going to pick in this fight? Ultimately, I'm going to side with the guy that's been off for 2 years, which is a little bit sketchy. But either way, I think Nikita Krylov is going to come in here and put a pace, I don't want to say a beating, a pace on Dominic Reyes. That's what he does in every single fight. He comes at you like a madman. He throws hard shots. He throws really powerful shots, which could knock out Dominic Reyes. And when he like blitzes you with these hard punches, and then he kind of just falls into a takedown. And his wrestling is actually pretty solid. He does tend to like look a little bit tired at times, but he just battles through it. Like even the fights he's been to a decision in, he looks so tired. It's kind of like a DDP-esque type of gas tank, to where he puts a pace, or even like a Pantoja, where they put a pace on you with a ton of volume, a ton of takedowns, and they look gassed, but they just find a way to battle through it, and ultimately they can make it to the scorecards. Nikita Krylov is that guy. I think he can knock out Dominic Reyes early. Even if he doesn't, he can get the wrestling going early, maybe even submit Dominic Reyes, or he could win a decision. I think all aspects are there. One thing I would worry about with the style of Nikita Krylov is the fact that he just runs at you at times with just no caution. And Dominic Reyes could snipe him with a left hand. Other than that, I think Nikita Krylov wins this fight. I'll take Nikita Krylov for the official pick. Let's move on. Bryce Mitchell, Silva. I thought this was going to be the feature bout of the night, but I guess not. It's the second fight on the main card. Silva coming in here. I've watched a lot of tape on this one. Ultimately, I think Silva's going to find the knockout. I think Bryce Mitchell could maybe have a couple takedowns early. Silva got taken out 3 times by Charles Jourdain. That's what a lot of people are going to say. But if you watch the fight, he's getting taken down, but he's not getting held there. He's pretty much back to his feet within a matter of 10 seconds. And every time he got taken down, he's not getting taken down in bad spots. He's pushing on the head. He's getting back up to his feet. And if you're going to clinch with Silva, he's going to hit you with those uppercuts. He's got nice elbows. Very fluid striker on the feet. Doesn't matter what position he's in. He's going to find a spot to hit you. And Bryce Mitchell, I don't think is that guy as far as being in the clinch. I don't think he's that guy as far as being on the feet. Where Bryce Mitchell wants to be is on top of you on the ground, where you are kind of accepting the position. Bryce Mitchell, I don't think has the best ground and pound. He has solid jiu-jitsu, but who's the last guy that he submitted? You got to go back a pretty long time. I think Bryce Mitchell could get a couple takedowns early, but I think Silva gets back up to his feet and ultimately puts him out. I watched that Topuria fight that Bryce Mitchell had. He took down Topuria in the first round, and then in round 2, every takedown got stuffed. He started to get pieced up. He got put on his back, and he got choked out. I'm not saying Silva is Ilia Topuria, but I think Silva brings a level of physicality that is comparable to Ilia Topuria. And I think if Bryce can't get those takedowns in late round 1, early round 2, he's probably going to start to panic, and Silva's going to make him pay for it. Also, weird thing that I noticed, but Silva, UFC career, every fight is against a southpaw. He loves fighting these southpaws because he has a nasty lead left hook, which is really effective for these southpaws that come in with a jab 1-2. A 1-2, not just a jab 1-2, but a 1-2, because he can time you with the left hook after you pull back that jab. And the right hand down the middle is very effective against the southpaw when you're going orthodox versus southpaw. And that right hand from Silva, very dangerous. So I'll take that official pick on Silva to get it done. Probably a KO in 1 or 2. Let's move on. Yair Rodriguez, Patricio Pitbull. I'm not a huge believer in Pitbull at his current age. If he came over to the UFC, 4 years ago or something like that, I think he could probably come in here and beat a guy like Yair Rodriguez. But I'm not huge on the guy right now. I think he's just way too washed. He's 1-2 in his last 3. Is the possibility for Patricio to take down and ragdoll Yair there? Yes. Is the possibility there for him to clip and knock out Yair Rodriguez? Yes, but I think it's a pretty slim probability. I think it is. I mean, Yair, the glaring hole in his game has always been his takedown defense. It's always been, after the first 2 rounds, how does his gas tank look? Well, he's kind of really dialed into that now, training at Valley Flow with Bilal Muhammad. I mean, it can't get much worse. If anything, it can only get better for Yair Rodriguez when it comes to his gas tank, when it comes to his defensive wrestling, when it comes to his defensive grappling. It can only get better, okay? So you can pretty much look at Yair Rodriguez and say, his ground game's going to be a factor here, but I would hope it's better than his last fight. And when it comes to Patricio Pitbull, he's not a guy that's been wrestling much in his recent fights. Like, I watched his last 5 fights. No, not many takedowns coming from Patricio Pitbull. And honestly, his style of striking, I think, is terrible to deal with Yair Rodriguez. The guy is very flat-footed, and he kind of just waits, and wants to explode with like a big punch. But at 38 years of age, I don't know how long that's going to work. I think Yair Rodriguez, who's very good at keeping his range, throwing kicks from the outside, is probably going to win a ton of minutes in this fight from just being on the outside and using his kicks and piecing up Patricio with those kicks from the outside. So I think Yair wins this fight. Obviously, Yair is not a guy that you're going to be all in on coming off 2 back-to-back losses and kind of the unknown of Patricio Pitbull, but I think Yair should be able to win this fight. If he doesn't, I don't know where Yair goes from here, but I think he gets it done. He'll be my official pick. Let's move on. Michael Chandler taking on Paddy Pimblett. I've gone back and forth on this one because there's a lot of unknowns with Paddy as far as his gas tank. His chin has looked good, but Michael Chandler hits like a lot of other guys. But ultimately, I just look at the potential with Paddy Pimblett. I think he's actually a very built guy for a 155. I only think he's like 5'11", but it seems like every time he goes into the octagon, he looks thicker and thicker. Like, I'm not saying fat. I'm saying like filled out, muscular, like just all muscle. And maybe that's the weight that he puts on in between fights, and then he just cuts it back down. But like, the guy looks bigger and bigger. And I think his skill set is coming along. I think his striking from the outside should be able to give Michael Chandler some problems. He's a really good kicker, good leg kicker. And he's not a guy that's in there just in the pocket trading with you. Like, he kind of wants to stay to the outside, use his kicks, and then when the opportunity presents itself, to get the fight to the ground. Michael Chandler's 38. He'll be 39 later this month, so he's almost 39. Way out of his prime. Hasn't won a fight since Tony Ferguson. Level of competition is incomparable, but I just don't see how Michael Chandler wins a lot of like minutes in this fight, outside of maybe taking down Paddy Pimblett and just laying in his guard. But you're asking for danger at that aspect. Like, Michael Chandler's not out here just outboxing guys. He's not. He's out here either knocking you out or losing. That's what it comes down to. Like, he's not going to win minutes in this fight. If anything, Paddy's not the greatest minute winner either, but he's shown an ability to win minutes, win fights by decision. So I think Paddy probably wins this fight. I'm going to take him for the official pick. The 5-rounder adds in another aspect of, how can Paddy look in rounds 4 and 5 if it gets there. Michael Chandler hits like a Mack truck, but, Paddy has shown a pretty good chin. He keeps it way up there. I think it's gotten a little bit better. Little bit better. I mean, it's kind of the same thing as Yair's ground game. Like, him keeping his chin up is so bad. Like, at this point, it could only get better. So let's just hope Paddy Pimblett keeps his chin tucked, because Michael Chandler could put you out. But I think Paddy wins this fight. If he doesn't get KO'd, I'll take Paddy Pimblett for the official pick. And that'll take us to the main event. Alexander Volkanovski, Diego Lopes. This one is tough, but it's also kind of a no-brainer in my opinion, as far as what side I would want to be on, okay? Let me explain that. When I say no-brainer, it's more so of what's the best possible outcome? Well, what's the best possible outcome for Diego Lopes? A finish in round 1 or 2. If that happens, That's kind of, I don't want to say his win condition, but he's going to be dangerous in those first 2 rounds. And Volkanovski, probably going to be keen to it. He's probably going to look to take this fight slow. But I don't know. I just don't like when Volkanovski does that. Like, he did that against Ilia Topuria. He almost looked scared to get hit. And look what happened. Now, Diego actually has some pretty solid boxing. And when I say that, I mean it's effective. It's not really pretty. But he does find some counters in the boxing department. He's a huge guy for the weight class. If he gets taken down, you know you got to be on your P's and Q's with his jiu-jitsu off his back. So he's dangerous. He's very dangerous. And Alexander Volkanovski, on the other hand, he's a tactician. He's a tactician that wants to take you into those championship rounds and then ultimately turn up on you. Can he get there? Can he get there is the point. And considering his age, considering that he's been the champion before, considering that he's lost back-to-back fights, been off for a year, I just can't trust him anymore. I just can't trust. This is a very common thing for me, where you get a champion that's been there and done that. They go on a losing streak. Their career kind of becomes in question. And ultimately, I'm just not a guy that wants to back those guys, ever. Because fighting is a skill-based thing, but ultimately it is kind of a mental thing. And I'm not saying Volkanovski is checked out, but there's just a different type of thing in your mind you have when you have not reached that championship status. And I think Volkanovski is going to be a victim to that here. I think Diego Lopes is going to be dangerous early on. I think his cardio will probably hold up through 3, 4, maybe 5 rounds. I mean, it's another thing to where is his cardio that bad? Like, his cardio didn't look good against Dan Ige. He lost the 3rd round. But it's only going to look better, okay? It's only going to look better. That was a weird fight. He's training for a 5-rounder here, and I think he should be able to hold up over the course of 25 minutes. If anything, I think he probably finishes Volkanovski early. But if he doesn't, Volk's going to make it competitive. I think he could go to a competitive decision if Lopes holds on in those 4th and 5th rounds, which I think he probably will. So if it goes to a decision, then I'll take the underdog to get it done. More likely than not, Volkanovski probably wins if it goes to a decision. But I think Lopes gets it done early, but he does have upside to win a decision as well. So there's a lot of talking within that breakdown of, like, Volkanovski could win this way. Diego Lopes could win this way. Volkanovski is I don't want to say washed, but he's not in the prime of his career. He doesn't have the same motivations. Diego Lopes has all the motivation in the world, but ultimately I got to take Diego Lopes for my official pick. I think he gets it done. I appreciate y'all for watching. Those are the official picks for UFC 314. We'll be back here with the Best Bets show on Thursday. Long Shots Only live show on Friday with Matty Betts. That's where you call in. You give us your long shot parlays for UFC 314. That'll be a lot of fun. Stay tuned for that. Subscribe to the channel. Like the video for me. Till next time, hey, job picks.